In fact, and she is the member International Affairs Committee of American Academy of Dermatology. She's received the Dr. B.M. Ambadi Oration, Dr. V. Satyanarayana Oration, Ideal Delhi State Branch Oration, Dr. Madhusudan Das Oration, the Economic Times Inspiring Dermatologist, and I could just go on and on. She received the Member Making a Difference Award from AAD. I think the words would fail me. I just hand it over to ma'am to take this session forward because this is going to be a very, very interesting discussion for the rest of the time. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ishat. It's an absolute pleasure. And I think this is exactly something that, that really livens me up, excites me, this entire business of, mentorships, growing with all of you. Actually, we help to build up each other. That is very important. And we are going to talk about that. Most importantly, also opportunities abroad, because, mentorships, international mentorships, as well as career opportunities abroad is the most frequent question that I have got all over the last decade. I do not know whether I've been an authority on it, but I think I have just tried my level best. And rest, I think it's always, you yourself who can take this further. So that brings me to a very important question that we talk about the word mentor. And of late, it's used very loosely also. What is the word mentor actually? When you look back, a mentor or a guru is something that we Indians know for a very long time. You remember the Gurukul that is there right from the days of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The Gurukul, where the Guru would have, so many shishyas or disciplines all around him, sitting in his own house, his own courtyard under the tree and teaching. And later on, this was taken up by Rabindranath Tagore, our own poet, who actually had the Shantiniketan, somewhere I had always wanted to study since my childhood. It was a fantasy, which I never did actually, but I think we all imagined it. So mentorship, who is a mentor? A mentor may not always be a formal, teacher. In a very, what should I say, a very theoretical way, you could say that maybe your thesis guide is a kind of a mentor, but it's much more than that. I think a mentor is a person who knows the specialty, is a facilitator. The word here is a facilitator, can show you the way, can tell you how you can better hone yourself in that particular direction. Till a certain extent, the mentor takes you further. But please remember that there is going to be a point of time when the mentor is going to just let you be on your own. But that does not mean that there is a distance. It means that, you're always there. It's a lifelong relationship, but with certain boundaries, with certain borders. I think it's very pertinent to say that in the, recent light of a lot of things that have come up, both positive and negative. Please take the positives of the mentorship, both in India and abroad. And I think I'm going to take this further by introducing my co-host and the rest of you. Welcome aboard, everybody. So I'm very happy and pleased, to introduce Dr. Isha Agarwal, my co-host, somebody I have seen as a very eager resident, a postgraduate, and he was the first convener of the Ideal Residence Program, something very precious to all of us, which actually introduced youngsters in Ideal. He's an MD dermatology, consultant dermatologist in Kolkata, India. He's a winner of several paper presentations. One was at Dermacon 2013, Ahmedabad, the ISD Scholarship 2015, in 2014, and winner of the Spring Continental Congress Scholarship also. He has several international and national publications and has authored various chapters in the books. In fact, he has been an assistant editor for one of my books also, Chemical Peels, The Global Perspectives. And he's a speaker at various national and international conferences. Most importantly, he's a trainer for Botox and fillers in the correct scientific way. And I must say that I've had the pleasure of learning a little bit from him too. So I think this is something when you see a person growing and, taking over with you, a young colleague, it's an absolute pleasure. So welcome to the program, Ishat.
Thank you, ma'am. That was very, you said it very humbly that you've learned from me, but that was an absolute honor for me that very day. I can never forget it. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to give a very brief summary, of the other people today in the program. And the panelists for the day, you have a whole, bouquet of panelists today. Can I go back to the last slide, please? Yes, there's another slide, I think. Yeah. So this is not in any particular order. Next slide, please. It's just moving. Dr. Shikhar Ganju and please go back to the last, or is this the first slide?
This is the first slide, ma'am.
This is the first.
Yeah, so it's moving, please keep it there. He's an associate professor in the Department of Dermatology at SGTM and MC&H Gurugram. So Shikhar Ganju is also very academic, and he's a recipient of the IST mentorship program. He's probably the latest one to do so in Australia. So he'll be talking about that experience.
Thank you.
Dr. Indrashish Poddar again. It's an absolute pleasure because he's another person, one of the founders of the Residence Committee way back in 2014 of IITville, and a part of ResiDream. We've seen him grow from a resident to a very, a very sought after speaker and an assistant professor in the Department of Dermatology, CMS DH Kolkata. And you know that he's also somebody who's a prolific publisher. Welcome aboard, Indrashish.
Thank you.
Dr. Joan Felicita Sampson, I'm very happy to introduce her. Well, she's a professor in the Department of Dermatology, Dr. Somerville Memorial CSI Medical College, Karakoram, Trivandrum, Kerala. I'm very happy to say that Joan Felicita Sampson is somebody I met way back, more than a decade back, nearly 2 decades back, less, little bit in between, when she was giving her the DNB practicals in our college in Delhi. And she was probably one of the best students on that day. We kept in touch, and she's really come up a long way. She is the recipient of the Women's Dermatologic Society travel grant, and she's done really well in her career. You can see that she's a professor. Welcome on board, Joan. She's one of the first from the South who really took this forward. Next, please. Next, please. Dr. Kavish Chauhan, I've known a long time back, since he was a student in AIMS. All of them are so good, and Kavish is one of them. And he's an MD dermatology from there, but now he's a director and co-founder of Derma Clinics India. He's actually somebody people really look up to because he's made a very successful career with the specialty of hair transplantation. And those of you who are really interested in looking into that can have your answers, from him today. Dr. Sumit Gupta, it's an absolute pleasure because Dr. Sumit Gupta has been my student in MD in Maulana Azad Medical College. And he's going to talk also about his research experience, which he had sought. And today he's a well-known consultant dermatologist in Delhi. I've also seen him, growing up, and it's an absolute pleasure. He's also part of the founder committee of the IITville Resident Committee way back in 2014. Welcome, Sumit. Dr. Sachin Vaidya, he's going to join us by video. And I had the pleasure of meeting him twice, and this time also at one of the panel discussions. He's a consultant dermatologist at Adelaide, South Australia. He's given very good lectures on opportunities abroad, especially in Australia, and we are really very eager to hear from him. He's on the editorial board also of a few journals. Next, please. Yeah, would you like to introduce now, Ishat? Or should I just introduce them?
You can introduce everybody, ma'am.
Okay. Can we just go back actually to one slide? Yeah, after Joan, there is, okay. Yes. So again, Dr. Nisha Parma, who will join us by video. And she's an MD from PGI Chandigarh. She's been my mentee on the International Society of Dermatology Mentorship Program, a very bright academician. And she's now a specialist dermatologist at Rashid Hospital, DHA, Dubai, UAE. So she'll talk about UAE and opportunities there. Dr. Isha Narang, again an MD student from MAMSI, one of our students, and who's really written quite a bit, published quite a bit, and she's now a registrar dermatology in the United Kingdom. She's going to talk a little bit about opportunities in United Kingdom. A very bright girl, very fond of traveling, and I think also a foodie, like me. Dr. Sonali Bajaj, whom I've known, when she was MD in dermatology at RML Delhi. And she's now a consultant dermatology in the University Hospital, North Durham, UK. So welcome Sonali on board. Welcome Isha.
Thank you for your kind words, ma'am.
Yeah. Are there any left actually? Is there any slide after this? I think we are done. Yeah, okay. Over to you, Ishat.
Sure. So I welcome you all to this wonderful session that we're going to have today. The reason this session is different from anything that you've experienced before is that today we have a galaxy of experts who have been where they are because they've gone through the grind of it. They have accomplished what they have because they've taken that chance and have succeeded at it. So let me first of all, take this moment to say that when you are at that crossroads in life, when you want to do certain things and you want to do something, find something at an international level, be it a fellowship, be it a scholarship, be it a travel grant, there are always these three pertinent questions: the why, the when, and how. So this is my first question that I would want to put across. Why should one be looking for an international opportunity? And I think this is a question that I would first of all put to ma'am, Dr. Rashmi Sarkar ma'am, that why should one be looking at an international opportunity at all? Because at times we've seen that there could be a lot of people with wrong reasons to go for a fellowship. There is something called as the fellowship tourism which is coming over now. So it's important that one has the right reasons to be looking for something like that in their life. Dr. Rashmi Sarkar ma'am.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you've asked $1 million question, Ishad, and I think there is no simple answer, but most importantly, why do you look for an international opportunity? After all, we do have good opportunities even nationally. I think the simple answer would be it's for personal growth actually. Personal growth, developing yourself more, and knowing more, from learning more from global experts. That is very important because we do learn here nationally from our teachers, but we need to have a wider perspective, a wider outlook in a lot of subjects. And that is why we need to learn from global experts because it widens our horizon. So that is precisely the reason that if you're looking for personal and professional development, you should definitely look for an international opportunity. So does that answer yours in a very simple way?
That's a very, very simplistic answer, ma'am. But this you'd be surprised, ma'am, that there's a term called as FOMO, which means fear of missing out.
Yeah, I'm very familiar now with these abbreviations.
Yeah, so a lot of us have been suffering from it for quite a while because you get to, at least I have received a lot of queries from people who wanted to do a lot, but they just want to do it for the heck of doing it. And now it's very trendy to put up a Facebook status that you are doing so and so fellowship, you are going to so and so conference. So the reasons to be doing something international should stem out of a genuine need. So it could be very simple, such as skill upgradation, as simple as getting a different perspective from different work experiences, simply to building a good resume, in fact, professional satisfaction, to help you feel relevant. And maybe at some point, you would want to break the monotony in your practice. You are a successful practitioner already, but you would want to break the monotony of it and see how things are being done differently at different parts of the globe. So this is something that I would want to ask some of my panelists today. I'll start with Sumit. You did a fellowship in vitiligo. Was it something of an inner calling that you knew very easily the moment you passed out of MD that you would want to do something like this?
Actually, since my thesis and my area of interest because of that was vitiligo, and particularly vitiligo surgeries. So even during my PG and while writing my thesis, I knew that, okay, I'm doing this procedure and I'm probably getting good at it while doing it. But I need to see some other people also, how they do it. We already have some great people doing it in India. I had also had a chance of seeing them. But even during my PG itself, I had started writing to some of the exponents, writing an email to almost maybe 10, 15 of different people whom I had cited in my thesis and stuff, that I would like to observe you doing this procedure. And luckily, I got an invitation from a place where from one of the exponents whom I had written, and she happened to be in Belgium, and she offered a 2 months sort of a fellowship, research fellowship there, where I could also observe this procedure. So my basic aim was just to observe and maybe upgrade my skill and see if what I'm doing is at par with what is done internationally.
Okay, great. So there's another reason why people seek an international exposure, and that could be your personal circumstance. So in my panel today, I think I have Dr. Sonali Bajaj. Do you feel that, at times, I think for your case, you had to move to other country because of your spouse? So, that could be a factor for a lot of us.
Yes, I'm sure it is a very common factor for a lot of, especially women, that their spouse are looking to do a fellowship abroad, and they are themselves professional doctors, and they don't want to be sort of sitting at home during the duration that their better half is doing some learning. So definitely spouse is a very common reason for seeking international exposure. Usually in my experience and in the others that I've come across, there is a very good spouse placement policy in most international fellowships and jobs. So definitely the spouses are given preference, and it's not good definitely to ask a doctor to sit at home while the other one's doing some work. So and they shouldn't either, I would say. Grab an opportunity as it comes, so rather than sitting at home. So that's one of the reasons why spouses can make you get up from your seat and sort of look and explore something new. So yes, definitely it was one of the reasons for me.
A different perspective. So at times, this is the question that I'm putting to all my panelists. Have you ever had a need where you felt that you've done a fellowship and you maybe did not, you did it at a later stage of your life? So I think Dr. Joan over here, she can throw a little bit of a light that she did a travel grant. She took a scholarship, a travel grant at quite a late stage. So how was that? Let's just hear a little bit about your experience, Dr. Joan.
Actually, yes, most of the panelists sitting here, they had to find their way out. But mine was a relatively hassle-free, hurdle-free journey, because it was well planned, and I was totally helped by Rashmi ma'am. The whole story began in 2007 when, as madam said, while I was doing my DNB practical, that was our my first acquaintance with her. And then years after, in 2011, I think, madam was there in Calicut for a conference in Kerala. And to my surprise, she recognized me. And she said she wanted someone from the south to come up. That was her one and only need at that time. Someone from the south should come out, south of India should come up. So she said me, I'll contact you back. You just give me your contacts. I didn't take it that seriously at that time because I didn't know Madam was such a sincere person at that time. And then to my surprise, a few months after that, I get a call from Madam asking me to apply for the conference. And that is the annual conference of American Academy of Dermatology for an e-poster presentation. And I did it and it was accepted. And then Madam only told me, because I was totally unaware of all these opportunities available. I never knew that we had opportunities outside India where we'll get scholarships to attend this. Oh, I was totally unaware. So Madam only introduced me to this international travel grant, which is given by the Women's Dermatology Society. And so I applied for it and then I got it. And thus I boarded my plane for San Diego. Because everything was guided by Madam. And yeah, that was my experience. I had a good mentor for me.
Perfect.
Though
While we are on this topic, one last question is to Dr. Kavish here. So
Yes.
you are into hair transplantation, and do you really feel that somebody needs an international exposure when it comes to hair transplantation now to set up a practice in India? So what would be the difference between then and now comparatively?
What I feel is you certainly need a lot of exposure before starting your own private practice, specifically in something where results matter as much as in hair transplant. So you need to be pretty thorough and you need to be sure that you will give consistently good results. So that's why you need to look for exposure. Now the thing is, there are pretty limited opportunities nationally as well as internationally to learn the hair transplant properly. So when I started learning it, during my PG days itself, I was pretty sure that I want to become a hair transplant surgeon. I was looking for various opportunities, but to my surprise, there was no structured fellowships or proper opportunities available at that point of time. So what I had to do is, in India, whenever I was traveling anywhere, I used to find who is the best, who is a good hair transplant surgeon there, and I used to go and observe there. And whenever I was going, even when I was going for any international trip, even on a vacation, I used to keep 1 or 2 days extra just for this, that I used to find who is the good hair transplant surgeon there, and I used to request them to allow me for observership. And even I got the ISD IDBL fellowship for the World Congress of Dermatology in South Korea. So even during that, I again visited some of the hair transplant surgeons there in Korea. They do allow 1 or 2 day observerships. If you have to send a proper email and request to them prior, then some of them will allow, some of them will not allow. But the main issue is, in most of this international opportunities, you will only get observerships. So even if you get it through ISHRS or ISTS, they only will allow for observerships. There are some of this will allow you to join for free. Some of them are paid observerships, but in none of the international places you can get a hands-on exposure. So that's one of the main limiting factors.
I'll come to the details of it in a little bit, Dr. Kavish.
Yes,
So I'm
yes.
going to move on to the next part.
Yes.
So, this is a very funny thing that I came across on the internet. And it said the 20 best funny pictures taken on the right moment, emphasis being the right moment. So my next question is when? So, when is a very, very tricky thing to answer for some people like Sumit, Dr. Kavish. They knew that they wanted to take up, their respective fields as, as topics that they would want to go ahead in life with. But it's not clear for a lot of us. So I think this is something that, as a message, in fact, I've discussed it with Dr. Rashmi Sakar ma'am a lot of time, that a lot of times you need to give yourself time, probably, in order to figure out what you need to do in your life, and it's not a bad idea after all. So moving on, what is the right time? I think something that everybody has to decide for themselves. It could not necessarily mean that you have to start looking for a fellowship immediately after you pass your MD exams. Also, when is another question of getting an opportunity? And here I would like to ask Dr. Shikhar Ganju. I want you to tell us a little bit about your, experience on getting a fellowship in Australia, and how did that all manifest? When did you start applying for it and everything? It is quite interesting.
Thank you, Ishat, for the introduction, and thanks a lot to Dr. Rashmi ma'am for letting me be a part of this panel. The thing is, I started applying for the ISD mentorships when I was in the third year of my residency in Jipmer. And at that point of time, I was not aware that you actually need to have a good resume to be a part of this whole process. So I had absolutely no publications then, absolutely no presentations then, but I still went ahead and applied for the ISD mentorship. That is way back in 2012. So eventually I had to face a few rejections, but that made me more stronger. And I eventually realized that you need to publish in good index journals, and we all know what index journals are. You need to have a PubMed, Web of Science, or Science Citation Index and Scopus Index journals, and you need to write chapters in books which are good. And you need to have presentations in good conferences. So it helped me over a period of maybe 6 years. I built up my resume, and it's very important. I can tell everybody it's important not to give up when you have a few rejections. Eventually you can all make it through if you have the right desire in. And one more point,
Isha, sorry, once you complete, I have something to say about Shikhars in addition to Shikhars.
Yeah. And when I first applied for my mentorship, I thought that doing it right after the MD would be the most appropriate time. But eventually when I did it, I mean, it was like 6 months back when I eventually completed it. I felt that I was in a much more better position when I have had the experience of dermatology post my residency for about 5-6 years, and then doing that fellowship. It basically gave me a very comprehensive understanding of dermatology. And I at this point of time, I feel that this was probably the right time for me to do this particular fellowship. So I thought I was lucky enough to have when I went.
Takeaway for everybody out there who's listening to this and is wanting to do a fellowship, that you might want to give yourself time to figure out what exactly you want. Ma'am, you had something to say on this.
Yeah. What I wanted to say here, Isha and Shikhar, because I think it's very important, is since I'm currently the chair of the ISD International Society of Dermatology Mentorship Program also, one of the first, from India. What I wanted to say is, see, the issue is the ISD has wonderful opportunities of mentorship. There is no doubt about that. Probably it's one of the few societies which has such a structured one in place. Now, the problem that occurs is there is always a certain amount of budget. And what happens is, besides India, there are many other developing countries now in the world. You understand, like there are countries now in Africa also, Eastern Europe, where you may have people, with the socioeconomic status where they may be needing scholarships. So currently only about 2 people are allowed to go, the paid mentorships. 2 may be the non-paid ones. So you should not be disappointed, because please remember, you may have a good resume, but in India, when you're competing amongst Indians, because your competition is amongst Indians, okay? It's 2 per country. Can you imagine that in India, probably you have some of the best students, the best dermatologists all over the world, both in writing and reading. So it's that way that, it's not that you're not good. You may be good, but there are only n number of opportunities at one point of time. So you have to remember that. And as he said it very positively, he built up on his resume, He used to keep asking, and, I used to keep saying that, keep trying. It's not that, you're not good, you're good. But there are people, who may be actually, how do you evaluate a person? It's on the number of, your publications, your talks and all. After all, that is mathematical for the committee. So do not give up. I think you can do it even quite late in your life. He's still very young, but, we'll come back to that again. You can do it when you know yourself better.
Great. So coming to the most important question, how do you go about it? Ma'am, I think before we go into more details of this with every panelist, would you like to just give a bird's eye view about all that is available, so that we can go a little bit more detailed?
Yeah. So I'm just going to, will you be stopping the screen share?
Yes, I'll stop the screen sharing.
So I'm just going to So I don't want to give you a very long lecture on this, but in a nutshell, sorry, I had to just put on this. Yeah. Okay, we've already talked about it, that there are fellowships, observerships, scholarships, and travel grants. So observership is you're observing. It may or may not be a very structured program. Fellowships is that it may be paid or it may be non-paid, but it's more of a structured program. There is some way to evaluate you in the end. Scholarships and travel grants are much smaller, scopes, that you just get to go to a conference or you go for a meeting, and they're short-term things, but all of them have their own value. What are the factors to consider while choosing a program? One is duration. How much time can you spare? Are you new in your practice? Have you just got married? Have you delivered a baby? What are the issues, that you're facing? Location. What works for you? It's always handy that if you go somewhere where you know a person. If you don't, it's not a discredit, but really good if you know somebody. It's always good to fall back on somebody. Institute, look up that. Program director, are you comfortable? You've heard about the expertise. Volume of cases, this is important. No point in going to a very fancy place where the volume of cases is low. Availability of stipend, scholarship, that may help you. And then tuition fee. If you're paying, then you need to look at the tuition fee if you're going to do it yourself. Then this is very long, so it's just fellowships which are there in India. Please remember that the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences has a number of these fellowships, okay? In BMCRI, Bangalore, St. John's, Cutis Academy of Cutaneous Sciences, Venkat Charmalia, Kempegowda Institute of Medical Sciences, then Maharashtra University of Medical Sciences, MUHS, also has it in two places, that is Came Medical College and Solapur. Christian Medical College, Vellore again, which offers different fellowships. So these are different ones in pediatric dermatology, dermatosurgery, advanced medical dermatology. Jipmer Pondicherry has really good ones in pediatric dermatology and lasers and dermatosurgery. It's a full proper, course which is there, which actually you have a proper exam also in the end of it, a theory and a practical, which is there in most of these. Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR Medical University in cosmetology, aesthetic dermatology, trichology. So you can see the durations, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, and then there is also the website. So you can keep checking, because in the COVID era, things can change. Please look up. Observerships in India, there are many. IITVL has some very good observerships. Please avail them. ACSI, Association of Cutaneous Surgeons of India. So these are 4 weeks. These are wonderful. You get hands-on experience. AIMS, New Delhi. But you have to look at the website, because these change from time to time. Then these are some of the dermatopathology training options. So you can look these up also, short and long ones, which are available. There are many training options in the US, but please remember that in the COVID era, post-COVID era, there may be changes. So what I'm showing, may or may not hold true for a couple of months. You have to keep checking their websites. There are different ones, and most of these are paid, as you can see, and the fees varies. This is only according to a last publication, but the fees could vary. So check what you have, check your budget. Then their IITVL offers these international dermatopathology observership. I think you're aware, there are 4 of them. And they have a tie-up. IITVL is doing a good job with University of California, San Francisco, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Houston, Texas, Mackay Memorial Hospital, Taipei, Taiwan, and National Skin Center, Singapore. So look out for these also. These are quite good, and they give you about 1 lakh each, maximum 6 candidates per year. It was also started when I was the honorary secretary of IITVL. I've already told you what's a mentorship. So if you want to have a successful career, do look out for a mentor, but it does not mean, on the other hand, that if you do not have a mentor, you will not have a successful career. I didn't have one single mentor, but I've had several small mentors in different, ways, and I think I've done quite well. So it's okay. If you have to do well, you will. It's more for career satisfaction. It is conducted physically, but remember, in this online age, it can also be virtual with phone calls, in-person meeting in conferences. There are unique challenges with COVID. And both mentor and mentee must make a time commitment in the relationship. So you need to put across at least 30 to 45 minutes, okay? Maybe twice a month or something if it is an online meeting. You have to have a time commitment. This is what I did very late in my life, the Career Development Award by the Women's Dermatologic Society. It's a typical mid-career award. And I did my pediatric dermatology visiting, fellowship, and I did it at University of California. This is Dr. Ilona Frieden in pediatric dermatology. I, of course, had one of my seniors helping me out with the collaboration, because this is very much, the collaboration is pretty much on your own. So WDS does give a grant, once in a lifetime for a career development award, and that should be taken later in life. I did it when I was an associate professor. I'd fixed up and helped in facilitating a lot of fellowships. I did mine very late in my life. And these are my other mentors from the department. Again, this was when I went and all, this is Dr. Erin Matz from the pediatric dermatology department again. This is something that we had started way back in 2014, the IITVL mentorship program. Okay, there was no COVID that time. Something made me think that why can't we save money? Why can't we have a virtual mentorship program? And we started doing a virtual mentorship program. We had 7-8 mentors for soft skills, and we actually invited applications, and we were good to go. I had two, Dr. Jasmine from Kashmir. I picked up Dr. Abhijit Jha from Bihar and Dr. Soumya from Jagadishan from Kerala. I chose states which were not so much in the loop at that time, right? And there were other people also who had mentees, and it was basically a virtual program. Just think of it, how relevant it is today. So the ISD mentorship we've talked about, there are 3 categories. The first one is till the age of 35. You get $1,000 US. You can get it up to 2 months total. And this is the paid category till 35 years of age, okay? Preference is not given to cosmetic surgery, okay, cosmetic dermatology. Only 2 awards per country per year, please remember this. So it's not that you're bad, it's less. So this is one of my ISD mentees, that is Dr. Nisha Parma. She was a mentee from Nigeria that time, but she was working, of course, in India. And she's a consultant now. And this is by, Onik Bukan Omodulu. He's of course from Nigeria. He's my ISD mentee from Nigeria again. And this is my Women's Dermatologic Society mentee, Dr. Erica Reed. She had come and, done her pigmentary dermatology as well as clinical dermatology when I was in MAMC. The second category is the sponsored category, that some mentor can actually get grants and sponsor you. The third is, of course, an unpaid category beyond 35 years of age, residents or dermatologists who are not financially supported, because in countries like Africa, you actually have dermatologists who are of an older age, beyond 50 years. This is the ISD Mentorship Committee at one of the annual AD meetings. So I was the co-chair, Martin was the chair, now I'm the chair. We spread the news in ISD stall. Remember Ishat, remember Indrashish and Anupam and all these people, that this is the ISD stall, at Axicon, Kolkata. National Skin Center, again, we will be going to that. It has paid fellowships, isn't it? And this is something you can look out for. I think it starts with STD 1000, and you can have 1 to 12 months, different paid categories of dermatosurgery, pediatric dermatology, clinical dermatology. This is a good one, as and when it opens up. So I'm not going to go so much in details. There are many of them, okay? And yeah, I think this is again the American Academy of Scholarship, which is there given by the IITVL. Many of you have availed this, isn't it? There are many in this group. And I was part of the International Affairs Committee. So that's me with Dr. Jean Bologna and so many people from India. You can recognize Dr. Rahul Mahajan, Dr. Vishal Gupta, Dr. Muhammad Razmi, Dr. Rachita Dhurat, Dr. Sameepa Mukherjee, lots and lots of them, okay? I think Dr. Geeti Khulder also. And there you can see Joan. So this was as the chair, International Affairs Committee, WDS, with WDS scholarship holders from India. Dr. Khushbu Mahajan is also there. And there's also, another recipient from CMC Vellore. So these are some of the, and this was my co-chair, Dr. Louis Gart from Germany. Okay, so I think for the time being, and by the way, Pigmentary Disorder Society also gives one international scholarship or travel grant, and this is with Dr. Divita Buraria again, who got it in the second Pigmentary Con to go to Germany for the ISA, the International Summer Academy meeting. So over to you. There are many opportunities. Over to you, Ishat. Thank you.
So that was quite an elaborate presentation, ma'am. I think if somebody really wants to know more information, they can reach out to find out more information on how to go about it. This is the time that I would want to ask my panelists now, starting with Dr. Indrashish Podar. So what do you think are the prerequisites, or how do you build a good resume to get selected for a travel grant or a scholarship, and do throw a little bit of a light about your experience that you've had in Germany? So consider it for somebody who's just freshly passed out. How do they start building their resume to get selected for a travel grant or a scholarship?
Thank you, Ishanta. Thank you, ma'am, for providing me this opportunity. Well, I think the one of the most important things, as ma'am has already said, is that to have a good CV of your own, to have it needs a very good CV. So I think that is the first and foremost. And I think before that, you need to have an interest in something, as Kavish sir was saying, as Dr. Sumit Gupta was also saying, that you need to develop interest in something which can be anything. It's not necessarily your thesis topic, which usually is the case, but it might not be. Like my thesis was on leprosy. I am interested in leprosy, but it's not like my uh, most interesting topic. So it cannot be your thesis topic, but you need to find out for yourself what interests you. And then I think you need to have that knack of publishing. I think that is something which is very important. That whatever cases, I think we Indians lack this. This is something which I also saw, that this is like we lack in publishing. We are seeing a lot of cases, and there are a lot of reasons also. A lot of patients in our outdoors and a very cramped situation. But I think this is something we need to focus, that we should publish more. That's one way to build our CV, and you need to have good mentors. Like for me, I was very fortunate to have Rashmi ma'am as my mentor. So that has actually, of course, that's the cornerstone. So you need to have mentors like Rashmi ma'am as long as she's around. So there is no problem. And then I'd like to, like as you said, that I was awarded the ISD mentorship, for which I traveled to the Ludwig Maximilian University under Professor Thomas Ruzicka. And it was a life-changing event for me. I did it in 2018. I also applied it for 2 to 3 years, and ma'am was there always. She guided me. She also encouraged me that when I was being rejected. But I think it started in 2015, when I still remember that the year before that, Professor Ruzicka has come to our Dermacon, and I was somehow introduced to him, and I said that, sir, I'd like to learn from you. And then he said that, okay, we have a program which was that International Summer Academy, which was held at Munich every 2 years. I don't think the program is being held now because sir has retired. So he said that you can have a look into it. And so then in 2015, we received this traveling scholarship from ISA Munich. I was there, Dr. Anupam Das was also there, and one of my other colleagues was there. So that was the first time we went abroad for this. It was my first abroad trip also. So so that was the first time I came in contact with Professor Ruzicka, Thomas Ruzicka. He's a wonderful person, absolutely fantastic gentleman. And then I always then we I mean I kept in touch over emails, and then we built up this contact over email. And then when this ISD, when I passed out, I came to know about this ISD mentorship program. Ma'am was always there to help me, and then I applied. I applied for 2 years, and my first choice was that LMU at Munich. And again here also, because I was a bit confused on what to do, this is the only institute which offered a whole on clinical dermatology. It had everything. It had got its allergy section. It had got everything. It was not a specified fellowship. So I applied in ISD. Then I also wrote a mail to Professor Ruzicka he said that, okay, we will take you if you are there. Then of course, ma'am was there for encouragement, and fortunately, I was selected in 2018, and I headed to Munich, Germany, under sir to do my fellowship for 2 months.
Yeah,
Now,
I
so that
wanted
was
to
a
say, sorry. Yeah,
yes,
please
ma'am.
continue. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to say here, what Indrashish has very nicely said. See, another thing is when you're choosing a country, sometimes you have to work out the finances, which I think you'll come to late. So one thing that worked was we tried, in the mentorship committee, sometimes we try to pair up people, from this same country, or, maybe same, where you can kind of share the costs and stuff, obviously if you can live with somebody. So we try to do that. It's not a formal thing. This is beyond our duty. Also, what I tried, was to make a common group. We tried to link you up with a previous mentee who has been there. And I think Indrashish, in your case, Shekhar Nima was there, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Shekhar
Yes,
was
he
there,
has
and
gone the
so
previous year.
maybe Rahul Mahajan also. I'm not sure the sequence, but
Yes,
that is how we
yes,
told them that how did they do their housing. These things are pertinent. Your
yes,
housing, how much cost, safety factors in a foreign country.
yes.
Remember that safety rules are the same everywhere in the world. Okay. So these are important things. So I think Indrashish did a good job. Maybe we tried to put two people together, so that it's a little
Yes,
easy
I
for
had
them.
one of my colleagues only.
Yeah.
And this is what ma'am has said. It is very important to actually sort out the logistics, because I also wrote a mail to LMU, and they categorically said that we don't have any hostel facility. So actually, ISD mentorship is also a paid one. They pay you $1,000 per month for a maximum of 3 months. We did it for 2 months, so we received $2,000. But in a foreign country, it's very difficult. So you have to arrange everything, like where you will have to stay and everything. So that's where, as Mama said, we contacted Shekhar sir, and for me it was more helpful for they helped me out, and Rahul Mahajan sir, he helped me a lot actually. On giving the contacts of where he said, and then you'll find out. So it's not a very difficult issue, because lot of Indians are there in Munich. Lots and lots of Indians are there in Munich. So it's not difficult to find a place for 2 months, but you need to arrange the logistics beforehand. So I think, and what Isha the said about my experience there, I think that was fantastic. LMU is the largest dermatology hospital in the world. It's actually a 7-story building which is dedicated to dermatology, and so it was a life-changing experience for me. And what I learned there was that they don't have leprosy like we have dermatology, venerology, and leprosy. So they have dermatology, venerology, and allergology. So allergy is something which is they are very into it actually. They don't have these infectious diseases. So I still remember that one day a patient with tinea came up to them, and they were like it was like they were all confused, and they were even suggested biopsy. And I was there with one of my colleagues only. He was also from Calcutta, Dr. Shuraji. So we immediately said it's tinea. They thought it's something like huge. They were like very amazed that we could diagnose it at one shot. So these are like geographical differences, but it was a amazing experience for me. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
in fact,
And
Indrashish, I'd like to say here that Dr. Thomas Ruzicka, is an amazing mentor for a lot of
yes,
people, all
absolutely,
over the world. I
absolutely,
wanted to say it here,
yes,
it was because of him that so
yes, ma'am,
many mentorships
absolutely,
took place, isn't it?
absolutely.
So
Because
the
in fact,
mentor has to have the heart in the right place, actually. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. In fact, what
So,
happened was when we used to give the rounds, it was conducted in German language. They're talking to patients in German language. So sir was very supportive. I knew a bit of German language. I had studied it, but it was not that much that I could converse with patients. So sir always translated those whatever was being discussed in the round for us, and he also asked us that what do we do in India. So he's really an exceptionally wonderful mentor, I would say, and it was. I think I was fortunate, and thanks to ma'am also, and it all happened. But beyond academics, I think what is much more important is that you grow as a person. You you meet more people, and one of my best experiences was the Oktoberfest. So I was there in Munich at that time, and I was able to attend it. And even Sir also, he gave us leave. So he said that, okay,
Now
take the leave.
I think
So,
we are going to chat on that at a different
yeah,
time and your
Yeah.
time there. My second
yeah,
question is, these
Yeah,
what
Isha, one thing I wanted to say here, before I forget to everybody here, please check your emails. If you want to do well in life, one simple suggestion, do not forget to check your emails. You do not know what goodie is going to be there in the email.
yeah,
We don't do this very simple thing. If you don't look at it, you are the loser, because what happens is Rahul Mahajan, in fact, had an email coming to him several times, which he had somehow not seen. They were about to give it up when I came on the scene and traced him out. So remember that your email may actually have something good. If you want to do well in life, please look at your emails and other things properly. Never, never give up on that. Yeah.
So we've been talking about fellowships and mentorships, which are on paper somewhere or the other. This is a question directed to Dr. Sumit. So you've done a mentorship program which was off charts, in the sense that nobody really knew about it. So you sought somebody out, and that is something interesting. So let's listen a little bit about it. That how do you approach somebody who does not have a mentorship program, or how to go about it?
I frankly had a very poor resume, and I understand as myself as a person, I don't have that kind of you can say personality or patience, you can say, or maybe skills that I can develop that kind of resume with rich publications and stuff. I was basically only interested in observing how this procedure is performed by someone who is more experienced and one of the pioneering people. And I just sought out different people and wrote emails to them whether I can come and observe with you. And some of them did reply, and you would be surprised, people do reply. Big people do reply their emails and do check their emails, as ma'am said. And they were very kind. Some of them were very kind, very encouraging. Some of them had very elaborate sort of form. Some of them had waitings for maybe 2-3 years. But there was one place where in Belgium where Professor Van Giel invited me, and I found it easier to go there than let's say going to Ames. Kavish sir, sorry, no hard feelings, because of the red tape. There it was, and and she offered me a 2-month research fellowship. Uh, they had an ongoing research on they always have so in universities like in Ghent, uh, about 70% of their time is only for research, and 30% is only for clinical dermatology for some of the professors. And some of the professors or specialists, they spend more time in practical and clinical dermatology. So I learned a lot of things. I didn't know that the kind of work that is being done there. It's one of the pioneering institutes for anything they do on melanocyte, whether it's melanoma research and whether it's vitiligo or other pigmentary disorders. They have artificial models of different skin. I didn't know anything about all this stuff. And when I went there, a simple quest to observe that procedure became much more interesting. I observed their whole department, how it works, how they attend their clinics, how they counsel their patients, the kind of excellence in different treatments they have, because everything is state paid, and the kind of research that they are doing. While I was there, I also got the opportunity. I wrote another email to Dr. Kunrad the Bull. Dr. Ishad, you must be aware of him. He's one of the very an exponent in aesthetics and in Allergan especially. So he also very kindly invited me without any fee, without anything. That okay, this day is very jam packed with different kind of indications. You can come and you can learn injections from me. And I have very long lasting relationships also with these people. Even now, when sometimes we exchange emails, when we meet them, it's always an enriching and a wonderful experience. And regarding the cost, because obviously they didn't charge anything from me, they were very kind. And because of that, I've also made this that whoever wants to learn this procedure from me, and I never charge anyone for this. And before COVID, I had frequent visitors who would talk and observe this procedure with me. So when I was there, obviously I had to bear the cost of my lodging and living and food and everything. Surprisingly, Ghent is a university town, and they have a lot of university hostels which were offered to me, and the total cost was not as astronomical as someone might believe in a city like Belgium. So it was way cheap. In fact, my cost of living is absolutely similar in a city like Delhi or Mumbai, for that matter.
Wow. So I think that opens our eyes to a different, thing altogether. That if you have a mentor, if you know somebody, start writing emails. So you never know who responds and how that changes your life.
And one more thing, while I was there, Dr. Rashmi Sarkar ma'am wrote an email also, connected me to Dr. Krista de Kuiper, who was the head at Bruges Hospital, head of dermatology at Bruges, and she was very kind. She invited me, showed me around her department, another very beautiful hospital in a beautiful city, and she also showed me the city around. I'm thankful to Dr. Rashmi ma'am for that.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sumit. So next thing is, we are done with the observerships and fellowships. Let's talk to a few people who've actually settled abroad and they're doing their jobs abroad. Let's start. I'm going to go country-wise, and this question is to Dr. Isha Narang. I want to understand what does it take to work in UK as a consultant? How do you go about that process? What was your personal journey? And things like that, what would help somebody who would want to settle down in the UK? How should one go about it?
Thank you, Dr. Ishad. So my experience started with the UK when my husband came here. So that's what Dr. Sonali was telling, that when your spouse takes the leave, then you have to take that leave with him. And I think that's important. One of the most important thing about working in the UK is that you need to get a GMC registration. So you cannot work in UK without a GMC registration. And the real pathway for us dermatologists is either to give PAB or MRCP medicine. So actually MRCP SCE, that a lot of people ask me whether SCE dermatology can help you to get GMC registration. So the answer is no. To get a GMC registration, you need either PLAB or MRCP, and that's how you get a GMC registration, which makes you eligible to work in the UK, and then you can apply jobs. So while applying jobs, you can apply a job in dermatology, and they do regard your experience in India. So whenever you apply for any of the jobs through nhsjobs.com or any other websites, they do regard that you do have 3 years of MD experience in dermatology, and that's how you can get shortlisted. And most of the times, I think if you have a GMC registration, they will shortlist you and they will call you for the interview. So you just have to give the interview and you will be taken aboard. So there are various posts that occur for dermatologists. So they can vary from a fellow to a consultant post. So initially, when you get a GMC registration, it's mostly on a general registration. So on a general registration, you can work as a fellow, even as a consultant. So it really depends upon the job and your level of experience and also where you're applying the job. So many of the smaller cities might give you a consultant job even initially during your career, but probably in bigger cities like London, you may need to start as a fellow or as a registrar, and subsequently you work your way towards specialist registration. And specialist registration can be attained through 2 pathways. One is training pathway, which is known as CCT, and the other is equivalence pathway, which is known as CSER. So equivalence really means that you're trying to prove that your training is equivalent to how a person is trained in UK. So, and that actually you need to have your MD degree or whatever you're training from India. Plus you need to have some years of experience in the UK as well. So now talking about the pitfall here is that in UK, you do dermatology after 2 years of medicine. So you have to have that medicine experience, and that's how you cover by getting MRCP medicine done or working in medicine for 2 to 3 years. So a lot of people ask me whether doing medicine is essential or MRCP is essential. So MRCP medicine is essential only if you have to show that equivalence. So actually dermatology training in UK is for 6 years. So 2 years, 2 years is for medicine. So you can, find out ways to cover for dermatology for 4 years, but you need that medicine experience. So, I mean, getting jobs in UK is quite easy if you have GMC registration. And from my experience, I gave PLAB, and PLAB is a very easy exam. It's just a 2-step exam. PLAB 1 is very easy. PLAB 2 is also quite easy. And I think it is also essential. These exams are essential for you to know how UK system works. So it's a different country, it's a different system. And I think the best way to get into the system is through the legitimate way. So yeah, I gave PLAB, and then I got a job in dermatology. And I am working towards Caesar, and I've been offered a consultant post as well. And I've submitted my Caesar application as well. So I am on the path, and I've done my MRCP as well. So yeah, and I worked in medicine as well for 1 year. So I have done all that.
Dr. Sonali, would you want to add something on that?
Hi, I think Isha has very beautifully summarized the whole journey. NHS is a pretty complex organization, and it's quite hierarchical, which is quite similar to in India. So there are elements that you will find quite similar to Indian system of medicine, but then there would be some contrasting elements of the Western world in dermatology in UK. So as Isha said, that the background of medicine knowledge is crucial in UK and in any other Western country. So as Isha said, that getting MRCP UK is the most desirable way of getting the medicine equivalence, but there is a it is one participant was asking if it is mandatory. No, it is not mandatory, but then the path is very long. It would take many years to get that equivalence of medicine, to prove the equivalence of medicine. So definitely it's the most desirable way. Apart from that, as Isha said, that the jobs are quite, there is a quite shortage of doctors in the UK. So it's quite easy to get into the system. Definitely contacting someone whom you know is already in the UK gives you even more, sheds more light to the whole system of how it is working. There are lots of different jobs that you can apply for. I am personally applied for a specialty doctor position. So it's not a consultant, which is mentioned in the introduction, but it is when you have done MD from India and you have sufficient amount of experience, you can work as a specialist doctor in dermatology. But definitely, as there is a very strict hierarchy, it's below a consultant, but you can work your way up to a consultant position, because it's like a stepping stone to enter into UK. And once you've entered UK, you could sort of build your competencies and build your equivalence and get to that level. So the pitfall, I would say, in general, in moving abroad is that you definitely have to uproot your entire life and system in India and sort of adapt to a system abroad. Some people adapt to it quickly, some people adapt to it slowly. That's the only difference. In terms of other pitfalls is that definitely it's a slightly longer route, because you've obviously done the hard work in India and you've worked your through up in India, but then you're moving abroad, so you have to work yourself again up abroad. So it's a longer duration of time probably that you have to invest so that you can finally settle down. But having said that, it's not that you are completely unsettled while you are working in that direction. It's a journey, but it's a comfortable journey.
Yeah,
so
true.
I think that's very encouraging. Thanks for Dr. Sonali. So moving on to the US, I think we have a video from Dr. Shibani. I'd like to for
Yeah,
everybody.
both UK and US are quite complicated actually. So, but yeah.
I'm assistant professor in dermatology at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I am really honored to be able to
I don't think the video is visible.
That's okay. It's if you, can you hear? The hearing is clear, I think. Yeah.
Are you able to hear it?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's audible.
opportunities abroad on this Saturday evening, October 31st at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rashmi Sarkar for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my insights and experiences with all of you. Let me begin by telling you a little background about myself. I completed my MBBS and MD from Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi, India. And my connection to Dr. Rashmi Sarkar actually dates back to 2008 when I was a first year dermatology resident. Life had other plans for me, and I relocated to the United States in 2011 and immediately after finishing my residency. And Dr. Rashmi Sarkar was my mentor in Maulana Azad Medical College, and not everyone is as lucky as I am. And when I mentioned to her about my intentions of moving to the States, she immediately started brainstorming and trying to get me research fellowship or some kind of observership in the United States. She emailed a lot of people for me, and I did get a lot of offers for observership and research positions. And ultimately, I started working as a research fellow at Wake Forest School of Medicine in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 2011 under Dr. Amy McMichael and Dr. Gil Yosifovich. And since then, there was no looking back for me. I built my contacts there, and then I moved to New York, and I worked as a dermatopharmacology fellow for 2 years under Dr. Mark Lepel at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And then I wanted to pursue dermatology residency, and thereafter I matched in dermatology residency in 2016 and just recently finished in June of 2020. And I do want to tell you that actually I receive a lot of queries regarding my path in dermatology and my how it led to dermatology residency. And I do speak to a lot of people, and I think this is a great platform that I can share my experience and my key takeaways with all of you, and you guys can benefit from what I learned over the past few years. So here they are. So firstly, I think that it is a really, really great experience to work in a different country, get a different perspective and how other people are treated, how other patients are managed, and the quality of care that they receive. And it, in general, I think it makes you a better physician. So even if you plan to live in India forever, I think working outside India for a few years is definitely beneficial in the long term, and also does benefit your patients a lot. Plus, you'll get to experience a different culture and a different country altogether. And I think it is really hard to get dermatology mentorship or observerships abroad, especially in the US. I'm not sure about many countries, but I'm assuming that dermatology is a very competitive branch in general all over the world. So it is really, really hard, but don't lose hope. It's not impossible. And over the past few years, I've seen so many people who have done research in the United States. They have either returned back to India, or I know people who have returned back to other countries. And I also know a few people who have matched into dermatology residency here. I feel that most big universities and big university affiliated medical schools, they do have some kind of international visitor program. And so if you are interested, browse these websites and find contacts and email them. And even though you'll probably send like 100 emails, and you'll probably get only like 10 replies back, and that doesn't matter, because ultimately you just need one person who replies back to you, and that may work out for you. And that's what happened with me. I emailed Dr. Lepwall, and he wanted someone, and it was the right place at the right time situation, and I got to work with him. And he is a really great person, and everyone encourages hard work and talent, and once they see that potential in you, they won't hesitate to take you as a resident if you desire a residency. And the another thing that I feel that for people who want to match into dermatology residency in the US, either after completing a training back in India or not completing a training back in India, I think the one thing, actually two things that I would like to say is that, first of all, there is no escape from research. It is really, really, really important to do research. And even American graduates do a few years of research before matching into dermatology. So you need to have at least 1 to 2 years of research under your belt if you even desire to match into dermatology here. And secondly, I think if you are planning to do research in the States, then you should do research at a university that in the past has matched international graduates. Because if you just start working at a program which hasn't matched international graduates ever, then there's very slim chance that they're going to make an exception for you. So I think those are the two things that I really think important, that few years of research and then matching. Good evening, everyone.
So I think the video is done. So
I wanted to just say something, Ishad, here, because Shivani is somebody that I've seen as a resident. Then when she matched up in the programs, and then of course I met her subsequently in the US many times at the American Academy of Dermatology. One thing that is very important is you could be facilitated, but rest is a lot on your hard work and also being at the right place at the right time, right? You have to research that out. Dermatology is not easy in the US. Second thing is, please do have some publications under your belt even in residency. This is something that I have emphasized again and again and again. I think Isha here knows about it, and so does Sumit, for that matter. Whatever little, I've always tried to push them that have your 1 or 2 publications under your belt. It does help to work under an expert, okay? Because if you're working in an area of expertise, let's say, whether it was pediatric dermatology or whether it was, pigmentation, you're able to contribute something further to the literature. So that is again a niche area. So please look out. There's no getting away from hard work. There's no getting away from, a few publications if you want to go abroad. And build up your resume, full time. So what she did was, because whenever I spoke to the people Shivani was working with, they would say only one thing, that she's a very hardworking girl. She's very good with the patients and things like that, so that was it. So, and we never knew the path. When I wrote a lot of emails, I had no idea what exactly I was doing. I just did them. Yeah, my name somewhere clicked, somewhere. It just happened that, okay, somebody had heard the name, the publications, whatever. And I remember that Shivani was going to Manali with her husband for a holiday. After putting the resume, she was more interested in Manali. When I called her back and said that we've received the answers of the email, please answer back, go to a cafe in Manali and please just write a thank you. Again, I said, please look at your emails again and again. If you do not look at your email, you miss a lot of goodies, okay? Okay, Ishat.
So next video we're going to play is by Dr. Vaidya, who's from Australia. He's going to give us an overview about Australia. I think this is going to be interesting.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sachin Vaidya, a dermatologist from Adelaide. Thank you for the opportunity. So the overseas training in Australia, there are few pathways. There are 3 main pathways. One is specialist pathway, where most of the dermatologists not only from India, but other countries, they come here and get trained. Specialist pathway, you can go through the Australian College of Dermatologists website. It's called www.aacd.com. dermacol.edu.au. And all the steps are mentioned in this website regarding the specialist pathway. You have to do a lot of paperwork. Once you are selected for an interview through the specialist pathway, you will be either interviewed on face-to-face interview or on interview, and then the Australian College of Dermatologists will inform you the ACD report, which will decide whether the dermatologist trying to pursue the training is comparable to the Australian trained dermatologists, or they need some upskilling.
Dr. Ishad, I think you need to unmute so that we could hear the video.
So upskilling training usually involves the management of the skin cancers, diagnosis of skin cancers, including the detailed dermoscopy training. There's a basic as well as surgical management of the skin tumors, diagnosis as well as the treatment of various inflammatory skin conditions such as psoriasis, eczema, autoinflammatory condition, autoimmune blistering conditions, infective condition, genodermatosis, pediatric dermatology. You get hands-on with various biological agents, whichever are available in the market at present. Besides this, there is a very strong emphasis on the holistic management of the patient with the communication aspect, ethics. So it's a very good training program, and at the end of the training program, the candidate has to appear for a fellowship exam, and if they pass the fellowship exam, then they are eligible to work in Australia. The other training pathway is called the short-term training pathway. This is where most of the dermatologists want to come for a short time, ranging from 6 months to 24 months as a research fellow, or these positions are usually not recognized by the Australian College of Dermatologists, and they are usually you have to apply to the major public teaching hospitals in Australia, such as Westmead Hospital, Liverpool Hospital, St. Vincent Hospital, or few dermatologists also declare these positions. And once the candidate has obtained these, got these positions, then they can, these positions are again assessed by the Australian College of Dermatologists for suitability of the candidate for these positions. The other pathway is called as an area of need positions. Again, these are declared on the various recruitment agents by the recruitment agencies or the health websites. Again, once the candidate has to apply directly to the employer, and when they get these positions, then the College of Dermatologists will assess this position for the suitability of this candidate. So this is the basic pathways. My tips for the dermatologists and registrars are: first, they maintain their logbook and to show that what experience they have, build up their CV, build up their network during their registrar phase as well as after when they become dermatologists. Decide what interests you have, and once you find out that interest and decide which country you want to go and train yourself, and always the mentors help you to guide where you can apply. So thank you again.
So I think next we have another video from the UAE, and let's just hear Dr. Parmar here.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Nisha Parma, a specialist dermatologist in the Department of Dermatology at Rashid Hospital, Dubai Health Authority. I also serve as a co-program director for the Dubai Dermatology Residency Program under the DHA. I'm very happy and delighted to be a part of this evening's webinar on the international career and mentorship opportunities for young Indian dermatology graduates. I wish I could have been part of the live session, but due to unavoidable circumstances, I could not make it tonight. Now, a little bit about myself. I did my MBBS from JIPMER in Pondicherry and my MD in dermatology from the PGI Chandigarh. Following this, I worked as an assistant professor in the Department of Dermatology at the Pondicherry Institute of Medical Sciences. I was very fortunate to receive the International Society of Dermatology Award, the Mentorship Award under Dr. Rashmi Sarkar in New Delhi in 2015. Dr. Rashmi ensured that I had a completely smooth and hassle-free 4-week-long stay in Delhi. From the very outset, she looked at every detail of my travel, my accommodation, transport, as well as food. And she made sure that I attended her daily outpatient clinics as well as her daily ward rounds. She ensured that I was a part of the dermatosurgery clinic in her department, and she introduced me to the art and science of chemical peeling, for which she is a world-known expert. Dr. Rashmi emphasized the need for good communication skills in our profession, be it with patients or with fellow colleagues. She also allowed me to be a part of the organizing committee for the first Indian Women's Dermatology Society annual conference in New Delhi in 2015. Following my IST mentorship, a lot of new avenues have opened. There have been numerous book chapter collaborations, as well as I am also one of the assistant editors of the Pigment International Journal. So I'm very grateful for Rashmi ma'am and the IST for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Dr. Rashmi continues to be a guide and mentor in my life till date. Now, regarding the move to the UAE, my husband and I frankly decided to move to the UAE due to its proximity to India. UAE is just a 3 to 4 hours flight away from India, and for those who have families back in India, this is quite convenient. In fact, I know of some expats who travel to India almost every weekend, so it's very convenient. Now, moving to any country is a process, and so is moving to the UAE. There are eligibility criteria to acquire a practicing physician license in the UAE. You need to have more than or up to 3 years experience after completion of postgraduate training. So that is a must. Anyone who is planning to move to the UAE must have at least 3 years experience after completion of PG. Then you need to give an exam. There are 7 Emirates in the United Arab Emirates. Dubai is one of them. The others include Abu Dhabi, Alain, and Sharjah, Ajman, Fujairah, as well as Ras Al Khaimah. So basically there are 3 health licensing authorities in the UAE. We have the Dubai Health Authority, which gives you a license to practice in Dubai. Then we have the Health Authority of Abu Dhabi, which allows you to practice in either Abu Dhabi or Alain. And then we have the Ministry of Health, which if you have a license with the Ministry of Health, you can work in Sharjah as well as Ajman. Now, one other reason that I would like to emphasize is that I know of a few of a few specialists who have actually left their jobs in countries such as the USA, especially Indian dermatologists and Indian specialists and move to Dubai just because it is close to their families back in India. So what kind of opportunities are available? We have both government hospitals as well as private hospitals. Government hospitals are just above a handful of them, and private hospitals, there are a multitude of private hospitals as well as clinics. I hope that this is useful information for the young dermatologists who are planning a move abroad. You can consider this as one of your destinations. And I hope that all of you enjoy this evening's webinar. And thanks again for letting me be a part of it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and stay safe. Thank you.
So I think I can thank all three doctors who sent their videos from abroad, and I'm sure they'll be very helpful for people who would want to make that kind of a move. Moving on next, there's a big, chunk of thing which is getting the finances and the steps. So this is where I would like to ask Dr. Shikhar Ganju to just crisply tell us about the finances bits and the logistic bits of his fellowship and how one can go about it.
Sure. So I'll be quickly recapping about what Dr. Sachin Vaidya said. And so there are two pathways for Australia, and which is
I think you'd have to stop sharing the screen, maybe, isn't it? Or do you need the screen?
This is Dr. Shikhar Ganju's slide. He wanted me to put this.
Okay, fine. It's actually showing the screen, with videos, not the slide.
Okay.
You can
open
the presentation, sir.
Is the presentation visible now?
No. You could
It's right at the top there, I think.
Yeah. You just
after Nisha on the right.
Opportunities abroad PPT.
Yes.
Double click so that it gets open.
Is it visible now?
No.
Ishad, I think you would need to stop sharing and then restart it. Then it would be visible.
When you do share screen, just click on those slides actually, which he has, or otherwise Shikhar, maybe he can do it without.
I can do it without. So I had a wonderful time in Australia, Sydney specifically, and Rashmi ma'am was there guiding me at each step, beginning from the travel time. So she asked me to book my flights early so that I could save on money and plan my travel well in advance, plan my stay in advance, and that saves a lot of money. So regarding the exact the examination fees, I've just written the whole stuff in rupees as well, so that you can have an idea. The entire examination, the Australasian College of Dermatologists exam, will cost you exactly 4 lakh rupees, and that is the only exam fee. It does not include staying there, traveling and all that. So the examination fee is 4 lakh rupees. The exam, mind you, is highly competitive. I just went through the records of the last 5-6 years to see how many applications have been cleared by people. And there are 3 outcomes that people get through an exam when they sit through the ACD 4 lakh exam. So the first outcome is not comparable and you directly exit out of the result theory. The second is partially comparable, and that is what most Indians get there. So most Asians, Indians, they get that partially comparable rating. And after you get that partially comparable rating, you get an upskilling of 6, 12, 24 months. It depends on how you have performed in the exam. And when you get this partially comparable upskilling, you may have to wait about 3 years before you get a position in the Australasian College of Dermatologists. There are very few people who get substantially comparable and they directly become a fellow of the Australasian College of Dermatologists. So last 5-year records, it's very clear that only 6 applications in the last 5 years substantially compared, and that is through all the international medical graduates. This is not only India. So across the world, only 6 people qualified directly to the Australasian College of Dermatologists. In the 2019 year, which is the last year, there was 1 application which substantially compared. So there were 5 partial comparable applications from the last year. So it's a highly competitive exam, and but the whole process of giving the exam makes you learn a lot. So I would highly encourage anybody who can afford the finances to be able to prepare well. The most important part, 50 to 60% of the questions in the exam is on skin cancers, which is the bread and butter in Australia. So you need to learn the dermoscopy tricks in detail, how to diagnose it and how to approach the treatment of a BCC or a squamous cell carcinoma. So those are the main areas of focus in the exam. And personally for me, I believe the Australian fellowship, it gave me a wider perspective of dermatology. And I still remember Dr. Rashmi ma'am, every week she used to ask me there, she used to call me and ask me, what is one new thing that you have learned? And she used to WhatsApp me and ask me, what is one new thing that you have learned in this week? And that motivated me every week to do a better stuff for the next week. So the entire 2 month stay was quite memorable, Ishad. Thank you, Rashmi ma'am, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Shikhar. There's a question, I think, on this, Isha, can you take it linked to Shikhar Ganju? I think something to do with the AMC and, something about the exam. Maybe you can just take it along with this.
Okay. Let me. Yes, ma'am.
Can you look in the chat? I'll read it out for you, if it is linked, because we won't have much time. One is that which exam for Australia, they're asking. I'm not sure what exactly that means. He's already explained.
So what they have to basically do is they have to go to the website which I've mentioned in the slide. It goes by the name of dermcoll.edu.au. So when you go to this thing, you exactly have to go to an international medical graduate link. And thereafter, you have to choose the specialist pathway. I would strongly recommend that you go through the specialist pathway and not through the area of need pathway. Because once you go through the area of need pathway, and even if you qualify for life, you'll be stuck in the AON pathway. The consultation fees that you earn as a physician, the amount of earnings that you are getting as a dermatologist through the AON pathway are almost half of what you'll get through the specialist pathway. So it might take you a year more, might take you 2 years more, but in the long run, always go through the specialist pathway for the Australasian College of Dermatologists. Highly recommend that.
Thank you. Thank you, Shikhar. Okay. So finally, I think, we've listened to all the people who've taken these kind of trainings and work there. Would you all agree that the grass isn't greener on the other side, or would you say the grass is greener on the other side, considering the travails and everything that goes into this? So before we, end this and before we take more questions, one last thing is a little bit about hair transplantation. I think Dr. Kavish, if you could just crisply summarize the opportunities for people who are looking for hair transplantations, India and abroad.
Yeah, because people are really, really interested, a lot of youngsters, and what they should do and what can be, little ethical and what is feasible,
Yeah, so what I would suggest is for hair transplants, so those who have interest even during the PG days, so they should start working on various kinds of observerships during PG days itself. What helped me a lot was that I understood about what all things needs to be done for hair transplant. I collected all the instruments and I started doing it in AIMS itself. And specifically, I did my senior residency from PGI Chandigarh. So when you become a senior resident, then you get a more free hand. You get to try more stuff and you get to learn a lot. So you keep learning from whatever opportunities you get. Now, regarding different opportunities in India, there are IDVL observerships available for 1 month, which you can go through directly through IDVL. But the problem is there are very limited structured fellowships once you passed out from dermatology to do it. So some of the international ones include, you can go to Dr. Alex Ginsberg in Israel, where you can go for observerships. It's again a paid observership. And then when you apply through ISTS or through ISHRS, then you can again get some observerships in some centers in US and one in Thailand. But then again, it's just going to be observership. The problem in hair transplant is that you will require more training after that. Because of this, the problems which I faced during this learning, so then we started a structured 1-year fellowship at our clinic, which is running now around for 7-8 years. So what we do is, so initially for the first month, it's just an observership. Then the fellows, they starts to do various procedures, and by the end of 6 months, they start doing independent procedures under our supervision. So with that, the advantage is that once you do all the steps on your own, then you become much more confident. So in India now, there are some of the specialists have started giving this kind of observerships. So one is available with Dr. Aman Dua. And then in Bangalore, in Cutis and at Venkat Chamalai, you can do a dermatosurgery fellowship where hair transplant would also be a part. So what I would suggest is that you first opt for 2 weeks or 1 month observership so that you get an idea whether hair transplant is your cup of tea or not. Because once you're sure that if you want to get hair transplant as your primary specialty, then you can decide to go for a full 1 year fellowship. And those who are interested in learning, then they can see on a website. Ishad?
Ishad, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Ishad, are you, I think it's frozen.
Yeah, he's trying to shift places, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I think that has been a great overview, you know. Hello.
This, I think.
Hello. So I think we've pretty much done a lot because there were many of you. The question here is, I wanted to tell you this webinar, we did not want to make it, you know, directly from, you know, the experts. Reason being, we wanted to know your paths, how you followed them, and how, you know, younger people and even middle level people can take a lesson or two, and mind you, even very senior people, because learning never ends. You understand? You're as young, you remain as young as you keep on learning. I have learned many things, you know, and I'm still going to be learning newer things. I learned some new things from Isha sometimes, maybe from Indrashish, maybe from, you know, Isha. So I think it's for everybody that you have to keep on learning throughout your life. And this particular you know, episode which we had, I know that there were many insights and it doesn't end. There are many questions. We've been doing this over years, isn't it, Ishad?
Yes.
We've done it, you know, maybe we did it here, we did it in the Yuva cell, and there will always be questions, and all of you wonderful people, you know, have answered it right from your heart, you know. So that was what made it, you know, very different from the rest of the shows. What we can do is, if you really have a lot of queries, maybe at a later time, Ishad can collect, we can come back to you once again, you know, maybe in a week or two if you want some of the questions, because these are things, these are hands-on, what people have really done, you know. They've kind of swam their way, you know, through the hurdles. That is what makes it important, because otherwise it's not easy doing dermatology in UK, USA and all that. So basically what was important amongst all these people, that all of them were hardworking, they were consistent. Everybody here was consistent, everybody was hardworking, and everybody had something to offer to bring to the table. I think that is common, isn't it? A mentor is there to hold your hand, you know, but after that the hand has to be left at some point of time. And but you're still together, you have a lifelong coordination. You can give back, isn't it? And how can you give back? Please carry it on to the next person, you know. Please give that experience back to another person. That is most important. That is how a chain is created. So I think that is what we had. It's been lovely having the audience, because the audience is very, very, very involved. Yeah.
Ma'am, I would just like to add one point. Yeah. Yes, so as you mentioned that checking email is very important. So similarly, everyone sees sending emails is also very important. Don't be afraid in sending emails. So it's okay. So see, whatever your things which you want to learn, may it be vitiligo surgery, may it be pigmented dermatosis, may it be hair transplant. So what you do is you decide what are the experts from which you want to learn, and you send an email to all of them. Okay, so it's likely out of 100 you will get only maybe 5 or 10 reply, but there might be just one reply which might change your life. So don't be afraid in just trying your heart out.
I think that's very important. Do not look for tourism only, right?
Yes.
If you are a tourist, what will happen? Ghumte reh jaoge. Okay. You have to have your bearings, you know. Initially it's nice, always roam around also, but please have your focus in place. If you find that you're going to learn a lot in Asia, remain in Asia. Asian countries are just as good, you know. You need hands-on. If you feel you have it in US or in Europe, please look for that. That is important. And one thing I'd like to say before we wind up, please remember, if you want to have a very strong IAD, please do not forget to e-vote. E-voting is on till 15th of November. I think that's very important. Please e-vote for a very strong IADVL. And I would be more than happy, if you decide to, e-vote for me as the president-elect, because I think we do need to carry all this forward, the younger and the middle level people. We need to get people together. So if you haven't, please go to your screen. Takes about 2 minutes. Please e-vote. Okay, very short time. Do you want to say something, Sumit?
I guess Dr. Shikhar would like to make an appeal.
And Dr. Rashmi ma'am for President IADVL, and Delhi for Dermacon International 2023.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for having us all. And thank you, Dr. Isha, for wonderfully moderating this session. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sumit. So before we wrap up, abroad is always nice, foreign is amazing, but do choose it for the right reasons, because you might land up in abroad, but you might not have a maid there. A maid in India is different from having a maid in India.
Yeah, that's very important. I learned all my cooking in Australia. I learned all my cooking in Australia.
Who are working in foreign countries might agree a little bit to this. Having said that, it was a wonderful session. Thank you, Rashmi ma'am, for this opportunity, and I hope to see you all with you very, very soon.
If all agree, actually, maybe we could take a photograph, if all of you come on the screen. And second thing is, maybe we can all screen share, take a photograph. And I'd also like to say that maybe we could have a revisit of this session, if you have more questions coming up, because we can do that, now we've always given you so many insights, right?
Yes,
so few of us can join back again. So can we take a picture?
Yes.
So everybody can smile, and I for international, I think. I for international, I for India, I for IADVL, okay? So let's just take, you can all take your pictures. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Thank you so much, and have a very good rest of the evening. Please enjoy your food and drinks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ishad.
Thank you to Gracewell and Glenmark. You've been wonderful in, going along with our convictions. I've made, I've really done some crazy topics, like emotional intelligence, these webinars, on international opportunities, but I think that's what we need, more and more soft skills. Over to you, Meenal.
Thank you, Rashmi ma'am. Thank you, Ishad sir, and thank you, everyone. It was great listening to all of you. Now I could really, understand that there are so many things that are involved in making a good dermatologist, not only in India but abroad. And I could see so many participants joining in spite of there was some glitch in between, but still there were so many questions that were asked, and they were so much interested in knowing about your experiences. And it was a pleasure hosting this webinar for Rashmi ma'am, again for you, with your set of great panelists over here. Thank you, Shikhar sir, thank you, Indrishi sir, thank you, Joan ma'am, thank you, Sonali ma'am, thank you, Sumit sir, thank you, Kavish sir, and of course Isha ma'am and Ishad Agarwal. So I'm very glad, and I would say the Saturday spent evening was a wonderful piece of interaction, and it was a great interaction. And Glenmark is very fortunate and thankful to you, Rashmi ma'am, from the makers of La Shield and of course Tacros. Thank you, Rashmi ma'am. Once